It's been 6 days since we wrapped up mounting the muffler, went on the engine building adventure, and I had to take a pause on that. Had some camshaft bearing clearance issues that I don't really want to rush, so we'll build that motor when we get back from California. So what I need to do today is build the adapters to go from the V-band flange to the headers, and we have to modify the headers so that everything meets up right. And I'm going to try to build half of this to where I reuse it whenever I build the new headers over the winter, and then the other half we'll just kind of cut up and get rid of. So we'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about, and then we'll get into building those. All right, so here's where we left off the other day. And so we have our inlet to the muffler. This gets a V-band flange. And then of course our headers, I've got the flange that I made whenever I did the upswept rear exhaust. So I want to reuse these flanges. They turned out really nice and they're super easy, and it's nice to have a couple of spots to be able to unbolt depending on, you know, what you need to do. So I'll have a spot V-band flange, and then this flange will get moved up here. But what we need to do is, as you can see, there's a major height difference here. And rather than like working in this tight area trying to get it connected, what I'm going to do is come back here, and we're going to bend up and then straighten it out, and then we'll probably put the flange somewhere in this area. That'll give us a little bit of room. I just got to make sure that we have clearance for transmission mounts and everything. So show you guys what we have to make these connections with. All right, so whenever we introduced the muffler, I showed you guys this stuff. V-band. This is a 2-to-1 collector. So that's going to get welded on like that. I'm going to cut the flange. There goes Hershey. I'm going to cut the flange off of the upswept exhaust and weld it on here so that it can bolt up to the flange that's on the headers once we move that. So to move that, I called up Speedway and ordered 4 of these guys. So these work really well whenever you are building headers or building some kind of exhaust, because random bends, it's nice having a 180 swoop and a 90. So the plan is to make basically a piece that steps up and goes straight and then flanged. And I'll use this, you know, I'm not exactly sure how I want to do it yet, but more than likely we're going to cut the 180. We'll spin that around, and then we'll figure out what the height is, and then we cut that out of basically what will be a 90. And you cut it out of both sides, and it'll step down together. And we'll weld it all up, weld the flange on it, weld it to the headers, and it'll all bolt up. So let's get into that. Alright, so I've had an exhaust leak for a little bit and I have not spent the time to investigate. I'm going to bet that that's it. These should be tight gaskets. There's like brass gaskets that go between the header and the head. And I have no idea what's going on there, but we're pulling the motor anyways. We'll get that fixed, and then no leaks. So now we've got these cut out, which is good because we need to cut these tubes off and clean these flanges up, and then we'll have to cut them off the other exhaust and go from there. But first thing I want to do is I'm going to take the muffler off, and I'm going to tack weld the V-band flange on here and tack weld the V-band flange on the collector, put everything on, make sure we have clearance, and then that'll give us what we need over here. So Let's do that now. All right, so muffler's on the fixture table. I've got it leveled. I did that by cutting a 2x4 to the right height so we could just stick it underneath there. The V-band flanges are slipped on, and I know that it's, you know, they're in plane with each other because of this wonderful table, which I need to make a video about. But if you look at the way these V-band flanges are made, so here's the side that that goes in the V-band that butts up to the other one, and then here is the side that we're welding on. And so if you look, there's that lip. So that exhaust pipe slips in that lip, and then we're making a fillet weld around it. Even on a fillet weld, I like to back purge, but my back purging regulator broke, and I'm low on gas, and it's a Saturday on a holiday weekend. So we're just going to do a fillet weld, no back purge. It'll be fine. I'll run kind of not low heat, but I'll make sure that I'm not like burning through, so we're not sugaring up the inside of that real bad. I don't know if you guys know this, but stainless is a reactive metal, so the backside of the weld will react to the oxygen that's back there. When you back purge it, you seal it off, and you fill this up with an inert gas, nitrogen, usually argon. It's usually the same thing that you're using to weld with, unless it's a big system. Then they'll back purge it with something else, but so that it doesn't react. So yeah, this is what we've got going on. I'm gonna get these. I might as well weld these up, honestly, and then everything else will probably just get tacked up until we get it all fitted, and then we'll weld it out. So I'll do that. So I don't think there's any need to like record welding all of this. It'll get better as I go. It's been years since I welded stainless, so. All right, now that we've got the half of the V-band adapter welded to the muffler, we're going to weld the other half of the V-band adapter to the collector. These collectors are the ones that I got from Summit. Earlier in the video, gave you guys the part number. They're nice, but this is just flared. Like they had a mandrel die and they just pressed it on and it flared it, and it's not exactly the 2.5 inches that it needs to be. So it kind of fits, it's hard to see, but it fits in there pretty loose. Which means there's an ambulance going by. I live near a hospital, so you get to hear that all the time. So that means that fits in there loose, and there's going to be a little bit of a gap. So what I want to do is I want to go around and tack this together and try to get this to where it's even, where it's not like sitting off to the side or anything. And then also try to make sure that the gap is even all the way around, just kind of split the difference. So we'll do that. And the gas is definitely an issue. Not being able to back purge is the reason why that weld is so dark. I thought that it was more of a fillet weld, but after getting those flanges welded, I looked inside and there was a gap for oxygen, and there's some sugaring on the inside. I'm not super happy about that. but it is what it is, especially for today. You know, we're on a deadline as usual. These pieces here are going to get replaced when I build the new headers. I'll order another set of these. They weren't expensive. And then I'll order another V-band flange and get the 2 halves. So, and we'll back purge these. We'll build full stainless headers, all back purged, done right. And then we'll just have the 1 existing weld on the V-band flange that has some sugaring. And I can live with that. It'll polish up on the outside. Unless you know, you won't know. So let's go ahead and get this thing tacked up, and we'll get the other one tacked up, and then we'll fit them to the car before I fully weld them, because it's really close to the trans mount, and we want to make sure that we're going to clear the trans mount. We get the muffler centered exactly where it needs to be, where everything has plenty of space, and that we can just cut up our header extensions, and we'll go right into this. I was going to cut these and put flanges on them, but I don't think I'm going to do that now. I think it's just going to be easier to just run them right in here. I'm going to have to clamp these down a little bit because those are 1 5/8", and I believe these are 2 inch. So we'll have to do some cutting and some squeezing, but we'll deal with that in a little bit. So here we go. Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about. Like we're tilted a little bit. So need to bend that back somehow. But actually, it looks like it was cut. This end of this collector is actually cut uneven. So I should have checked that before I tacked it. I think give it a little space here. Yeah, I think it'll be all right. I think that's good. Gaps on these collectors may pose a little bit of a challenge to weld, but I think we can get it. So, yeah. Get the other one done and we'll get them bolted up on the car. All right, so got the first one on, the second one on. I'm gonna try. I fought the last one one-handed, so I'm sticking the V-band flange on here. And should be able to manipulate it, hopefully. So I put the clamp up here at the top. I think that's going to be good. I can get to it there, and I don't want it hanging low. And this bolt's pretty long, and it would, I feel like it would hang low and could, you know, inadvertently get hit by something and be all screwed up. So we'll just put the bolt up at the top. It gives us the most amount of clearance here. Yeah. I think I need to angle this up a little bit because the other one's level, so I might cut the tack loose, bend it up, retack it, and but that's why I'm fitting it all up. So if we look down here,
It's fairly even. And there's our gap between our trans mount. And that's on the driver's side, trans mount on the passenger side. It looks like it may need to go towards the passenger side a little bit. But if I do that, it'll throw the center off back here. So we just kind of have to figure out a kind of a happy medium and go from there. So yeah, on to fixing the one side and then start connecting the headers with the extension pipes that we're going to build. All right, so I got the collectors welded up. I got them put on. I did have a little bit of a mishap doing the initial fitting. I broke one of the V-band clamps. Totally my fault. I welded, got the clamp hot, put the bolt on. Everything's stainless. It seized up on the nut. It broke. So I got a hold of Brian at Octancraft and asked him, hey, where can I get a replacement? And next thing I know, I get a text message with tracking information and everything. He's overnighting one to me. I'll have one here tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. So like that's big. You know, Brian was able to respond that quick. That's amazing customer service. So I'll show you exactly what I've got going on and then we'll start the next process. So looking from the top, we've got our V-band clamp going to our collector, both sides. It is centered pretty decent. I don't really want to change this because as far as my eye can tell, this is centered, it's straight, everything's good. So that is how all of that looks. So now I've got to figure out my center line from here down to here so that I know how much to jog that pipe up from the headers, the ones that I got to build. So that will be the next thing. And I think if I can get my laser set up, I'll shoot a horizontal line in the center of this across, and I can take a tape measure from the center up and it'll shoot a perfectly straight line and will definitely be good enough for what we need. So that is probably the next step. So first of all, I set up that stand, set a laser on it and shot it. I couldn't get the laser on camera, so it didn't do a whole lot of good to show it. So I found that I was 3 1/4 inches center to center difference. So that's 1 5/8 that I need to cut here. And then I'll take this piece and I'll cut it the same 1 5/8 from the center to the cut and then flip it. And so we'll have a nice little S that is center to center, 3 1/4. So I set up the laser, kind of got everything straight on the layout table. This layout table is super nice with all these holes you can line stuff up. All my fixtures and stuff are in a box right now and I need to dig that stuff out to use. But for now, I just lined it up with the holes. Everything looks pretty straight. And then I use this tape. So then I'll take a cut-off wheel and run around this, get it cut, do the same on this side. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how that's all fit together. I'll repeat that 4 times and then figure out our length that we need to cut. And we'll get that cut. And then we'll have to pie cut and taper the ends down on one side to go to the headers, and then the collector actually gets tapered down. So we're going from like 1 1/4 to 1 5/8 to 2 inch at the collector, or maybe it's 1 3/4. I can't remember. But then it's a 2 1/2 inch V-band flange. So we're stepping it up all the way there. So let me get on this and try to get some of these knocked out and come back whenever I get a few of them done. All right, so the first one is basically done. As you can see, we have an S, and it's really close to 3 1/4 inches. I can trim on it a little bit more. We can kind of manipulate it a little bit. I think it's going to be good because I'll cut all the others exactly like this. I'll use these as a template. And then we'll get it cut to length and we'll slide everything together and then pie cut it all and tack it all together under the car. and then unbolt the header, unbolt the muffler and the collector and all of that, and then weld it all up here on the bench. After we run some really good tacks over there so that it doesn't move. But yeah, so I think that's, that's good. That's the general idea. Just gotta wash, rinse, and repeat.
Oh, well, guys, the header build didn't go as smoothly as what I was wanting it to go. While taking the headers on and off, tacking things up, getting them welded up, I broke an exhaust stud off in the head, welded a bolt on it, attempted to extract it, and it broke off flush. So while we were going to pull the motor anyways, now we're going to pull the motor and try to extract that stud. Pretty discouraged. I basically stopped what I was doing and I just needed to walk away from it. I didn't come out in the garage at all yesterday. Had some family stuff going on and really just needed some time away from it. Was just very frustrated. Now I'm down to like 20 days, 19 days, something like that before we leave. So I got a lot of work to do today. I'm just gonna put my head down and get as much done as I can. Not sure how much recording I will do taking this motor out. It's pretty easy. It's not the same as most 914s because it's been so modified. It's very much like a race car. Minimal things to disconnect and it drops out pretty quick. I may walk through a little bit of it, but I might not. We'll see. So here's what we've got going on right now. I've got a mess to clean up, but I've got this header basically welded up, clamped it down to the table and welded it all and pie cut and welded that. So the 2-inch go to an 1 5/8. 1 5/8 goes to, I think this one was actually an 1.5 inches. So it's just a little bit bigger. It was no big deal. Just butt welded it with a gap and made sure I got good penetration. So I've got that one done. The other one still needs to be done, but today I'm going to transition over to mechanical work, try to get that motor out on the stand and get that exhaust stud extracted, and then we can get all that other stuff done. But this morning I'm going to clean things up. As you can see, I just left everything right where it was. Tools are on the floor, and that's not usually how I roll, but was just very discouraged. So I guess time to get to work and catch up with you guys in a little bit.